Hello, fifth graders. What we're going to do now is show you the process for our new project called Comic Strip. So we're going to start by building some characters. And I'm going to show you the ways in which you do that. Okay? Now your best bet is to start on a white piece of paper, a big white piece of paper with simple shapes. This is our practice, and I'm going to suggest that you practice with us. Okay? So you start, and even if you just have a little scrap paper, that's fine too. You start with big light shapes. We're going to do one circular and we're going to do one blocky or square character. And I'm going to show you some techniques to building cartoon characters. Okay, now you can also use resources online. Feel free to look up different types of characters or different types of cartoon eyes if you need them. Don't, however, copy famous characters. Okay, the assignment is not to do SpongeBob or Patrick or Mickey Mouse or whatever. The assignment is to create your own original characters. So this one, I'm going to start, and this technique is where we know we want to make a certain type of character. So for this one, we're going to make a human or humanoid character. So what I like to do is sort of smash my two eyes together with one big pupil and one little pupil. Lots of different types of eyes you could do. You could make them blockier. You could put them right next to one another. You could put big eyelids. You could have a line and put them like that. Okay, you could do two little dots. Lots of options, okay? And then I'm going to do the nose. And do kind of a shape for the nose. From here, you can manipulate the emotion using different eyebrows and mouth techniques. So if I want this to be an angry humanoid character, I do an arrow there, and then a peanut shape for the mouth. And now this guy is angry. If you want them to be happy, you could curve the eyes up, curve the mouth, curve by the cheeks, little lowercase m for the tongue. If you want them to be sad, you could push the eyebrows out, curve the mouth down, put a little teardrop, very sad. If you want them to be surprised, you could curve the eyebrows or raise the eyebrows and stretch the mouth out. Usually you want bigger eyes though, if they're going to be surprised. Okay. This guy's just kind of like confused. Alright. Kind of happy. So when you change those eyebrows and that mouth, you change the motion or expression. Okay. Now, who do I want this to be? An adult, a kid, an alien? Since we're coming up on Christmas time, what I'm going to do is make this an angry elf. There's his hat, the bells. He's got his elf costume on with more bells, and he's angry. Maybe his whole line of toys just broke. So he's an angry cartoon elf. Alright? But there's lots of different options. You could make it an old man. Now that kind of looks like Santa Claus. You can make it a simple shape, but add some details to it, like put an ear on it or add a few wisps of hair. You know, turn it into a humanoid character. Now, the other technique we're going to use for the blocky one, and this is where you don't know what you want to do. Okay? This is a human. This, I don't really know what I want to do. So what I'm going to do is just start throwing features on it. Eyes, nose, a couple of fangs. What is this guy? I don't know. If it's blocky, it could be anything that's square. A TV, a cell phone, something like that. I'm going to make this guy just kind of a weird monster. So now he's got fur. Instead of ears, He's got big old horns. And he's going to be hairy like a bear. And his feet just come right at the bottom. He's got big hairy bear feet. But he's got huge bodybuilder muscles. And let's say he was in the Navy and he's got an anchor tattoo. Okay, so together we've just created two characters from scratch using basic shapes. That's the key. You want to have those basic shapes, and you can taper them and change them. You can make it more of a teardrop shape. It doesn't have to be perfectly round. You could change up the eyes. You could change up the cheeks. What you should do at this point is start to think about characters you could come up with from scratch on the other side. And what we're going to do is we're going to brainstorm. Now what that means is you're going to take this technique and you're going to come up with as many different characters as you possibly can. There's one sheet I had of characters. Here's another sheet I had of characters. Sometimes the things come from life. It's Christmas time, pretty soon, Christmas type characters. Or my own pet, he's a chocolate lab, I could use him, or myself. Or it could be inanimate objects, like a bar of soap. Okay? But you want to come up with 10 to 12 different characters. Think about things in real life. Think about inanimate objects that would be fun if they came to life, like a pencil sharpener. All right? Just brainstorm a bunch of different characters. Some of them might be awesome. Some of them might not be great. Sometimes you might want to do something where you have a superhero. And then if you have a superhero, you might need a sidekick. Okay, like Santa needs an elf. Go ahead and name them too. Come up with some names for them. All right, so that's the next step. Then what you will find in the attachments is something called a cartoon flow chart. This is a graphic organizer, and the whole purpose of the flow chart is to organize your ideas. All right, so what I want to do is decide what my story is going to be about. So I pull 2 of the characters, 3 of the characters, something like that, out of my brainstorm. Okay? So for example, on here, maybe I say Santa, the elf, named Noel, that's his name, Santa and Blitzen, and Rudolph's way over here if you can see him. Maybe that's going to be my story. And what's it going to be about? Okay, maybe it's going to be about how Blitzen is the hero of Christmas or something, because usually Rudolph is, but this is a story about how Blitzen saved Christmas, okay? So what I would do is I would say, what was my title? The title goes in the title box. So for instance, Charlie Brown and Snoopy, those aren't called that. They're actually called Peanuts. That was developed by Charles Schulz. He was a famous cartoonist who developed all those characters, and it's called Peanuts. So you have to come up with a name, whether it's one word like Peanuts, or if it's the Adventures of so-and-so, whatever you want. So you start to fill it out like this. Try to keep it simple. So this one is called Blitzen, the hero of Christmas, and it says by Mr. Nietzsche. And what I do is I just put what happens first, second, third. You know, there should be a climax of a problem, like what is the issue, and then how does it get resolved in the end. So this one says Santa and his reindeer are stuck in Buffalo. Number 2 says Rudolph's nose isn't any help. 3, Blitzen has been working out, and he heaves the sleigh out of a snowbank and gets them unstuck. Santa delivers all the toys. When they get back to the North Pole, in conclusion, Blitzen is celebrated as a hero. So that's my story. Okay? That's what you do. It's just sort of a simple step-by-step to lay out your story. Okay? Then, what you're going to do is you're going to get a final copy piece of paper, and you're going to draw out using your characters. So using the flowchart and the character sheet, you're going to make a comic strip. Okay? And when you're done, you'll have something that looks like these guys. These are started.
This one's called The Flower Bed. This one is called Huh? This one is called America. This one is about a superhero kid who's half octopus, half boy. His name is Octo Boy. This one is called Whale Tail. Alright, I'm going to grab a final copy paper and show you what I'm talking about.
Alright, so to get to that point, what you do is you have these two handy so that you can refer to them. Take your final copy paper, which should be a nice clean sheet of paper, bigger if you have it. And what we're going to do is we're going to divide that in half horizontally. Then we're going to divide it into thirds vertically. And that's going to give us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, which correlates exactly to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes. And what do? Well, we start with a title box. This is where we write the title in bubble letters with your first and last name. So mine is called Blitzen, the hero of Christmas. So what I'm going to do is use bubble letters. Not every word. Words like the, at, they can be lower or can be single lines. Of. Okay? And then you also have to put by, dot, dot, your first name and your last name. Now, if you can't do a bubble letter, generally they're pretty simple. Write the letter, put a smaller version of it next to it, connect it. If you want it to be more bubbly, put curves on the end. Kind of inflate it a little bit. If you want it to be more blocky, put a lot of angles on the sides. Okay? If you want it to be spiky, put points on the end. If you want it to be real zigzaggy, then be real shaky when you make it. Those are all different types of L's. You know, an O, put a line on the inside. An M, put another line on the bottom and then connect it. Okay? Try those out. But you have to have bubble letters here so that you can color it in. You can also do like a simple shape or an explosion or a blockout. You know, like I could put a square around this and maybe a zigzag around that, whatever you want. But basically what I'm going to do is use my flowchart and my characters to draw out the story. So the first thing that happens is Santa and his reindeer are stuck in Buffalo. So I'm going to start to draw that out the best I can. Thought I had an example of it here. Okay, so we're going to have to start with Santa. And if we forgot what he looks like, oh, how do I draw Santa? Get this guy back up. Oop, that's the wrong one. Here's the right one. There's Santa at the bottom. Okay, so we got Santa. What would he look like kind of facing the other way, though? And he would look just like I drew him, so he would be kind of like perplexed. Meaning he's worried about how to solve the problem of being stuck in Buffalo. So Santa's gonna be stuck in the sleigh. He's got the sack of toys. Now, one of the things that you can do is word or thought bubbles. Okay, so for example, I'm going to have a lot of snow falling in here. Santa can't see. He's stuck in a snowbank. But what I got to have him say is something that helps the story along. So he's going to have to say something like, oh boy, we are totally stuck. And then I would put a bubble around it, sort of a curvy block, and then put a little tail that points towards the mouth. So now Santa, it indicates that he's saying that. Oh boy, we are totally stuck. The other thing you do is what's called captions. And you can put them at the top or the bottom, and you could use these for time and setting in place. So I could put, meanwhile, in Buffalo, New York, and then there's Santa saying, oh boy, we are totally stuck. All right, so I use that technique to draw it out. Think of interesting ways to show your story. Try not to use stick figures. Try to use shapes to build your character. Use thought bubbles, word bubbles. Thought bubble looks like this. Here's my dog Pate. He's always hungry. So he's thinking, I'm hungry. Put a cloud around it. Put a smaller cloud towards the head. Smaller, smaller, smaller. Now it looks like he's thinking he's hungry. Anyway, you get the idea. Now the next step is to do what's called inking. So once you have all these, you're going to get a permanent marker, whatever permanent marker you have, Sharpie, whatever, and you're going to ink the lines. Sorry, that one's not very thick, so it's probably hard to see. I'll use this Sharpie instead so you can see it better. Try to have your story make sense. It can be any type of story you want. Hero story, good versus evil, story of friendship. It could be funny, like a lot of comics are. It could be serious. It could be a moral, which means people learn something or learn a lesson from it. Or it could just be one installment in sort of like a series of comics, like one mini story, an adventure, but kind of have a problem that they need to solve. So like maybe they're enemies and they become friends. Or maybe the superhero and the sidekick save the world from the villain. Try to think those things through on your cartoon flowchart before you just wing it on the final. So we're going to ink all our lines. That includes the lines in between the boxes and by and our first and last name. Everything you did in pencil gets inked. All of this stuff. The next step is to start to add colors. Okay? So this one is about 3/4 of the way done, and this is called Whale Tail. And what I'm doing now is I'm filling it with marker. I think that markers are going to work best for comics. They're quick and easy. I do like to erase out. So once I inked everything, okay, I obviously still have 3/4. I have 3/4 done and 1/4 left to ink and color, but you get the idea. This is a good spot. This ink is all dry, so I'm going to use an eraser to erase out the pencil. Then I'm going to go in here and start to add the color. Okay. So use some markers
to fill in. You also have to color the background. The only thing you don't have to color are the things that are white. So if you have white eyes, white snow,
you can leave those things. But basically, we're trying to use marker. Now, can you use some colored pencil? Absolutely. I find that the colored pencil works best when you can't find kind of the color that you want, or you're trying to make something lighter or darker. So like this marker ran out on me, so this colored pencil is very similar, sort of a bluish green, so I'll use that instead. Or if I want this whale to look three-dimensional, what I'm going to do is take some white, put a little bit of a highlight in his cheeks and in the top of his head. That's going to make him look a little bit more 3D. I don't have any silver markers currently, so I'm going to use the silver colored pencil. So I do use a little bit of colored pencil, but I would use mostly marker. It's easier, it looks better, and it goes faster when it comes to comics. So I don't currently have a fully completed example right here to show you, but this is really, really close. This one called Whale Tail. You can kind of get the idea for what we're supposed to do. This is called Comic Strip, and there will be a bunch of references attached to kind of help you out. But if you need some, hit me up.